Bye. My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back to another episode of Duck Dogs. I am your host, Josh Miller. And before we get rolling, let us, as always, thank our sponsors. So thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba is the presenting sponsor of this show. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I am currently feeding my dogs and absolutely love it. I would highly recommend you go check it out if you're looking for a high-quality premium food to put your four-legged hunting partner on. Eukanuba.com. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is, I'm not head to toe in it today, but I'm wearing the pants and I absolutely love them. And now we're heading into season to where I'm looking at, all right, so for dove and early teal, here's my system that I'm going to wear early season so I don't get too hot, protect me from the bugs. Then we're going to move into, that early honker season. Then we're going to get into waterfowl season. Then all of a sudden it'll be late season, right? So literally all year round, Sitka has the clothing to keep you comfortable and keep you in the field no matter what you're doing, working, hunting, training. It'll keep you in the field longer because you're more comfortable. So go check them out, www.sitkagear.com. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. And they have a fantastic customer service base. So go check them out, www.gundogsupply.com. Thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel, both in the intermediate and in the large. And they just came out with the kennel cot for those kennels. So now your dogs can be extremely comfortable while they're being protected by the safest kennel on the market. So go check them out, www.luckyduck.com. And last but certainly not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your online guide, a step-by-step process that will walk you through training your own dog at home. So if you enjoy the training process, if you enjoy working with your dog on your own, this now gives you a ton of detail on how to go and do this at home by yourself, and it'll be yours truly as your guide. So go check them out, www.retrieverroadmap.com. Well, I hope everybody had a fantastic week. I am off to, the end of my week, going into my weekend. And before we get rolling, I want to first thank Whitney for stepping in and hosting last week. I'm glad that I was able to join from afar as I was down in Little Rock, Arkansas for the Delta Waterfowl Expo. And, good show. A lot of good people. Actually met a number of listeners of the podcast, which is always so fun for me to go to new places and get to meet you guys and shake your hand and hear your stories. And it really is a fun thing for me. I can tell you, going into that show, I was definitely in the mindset of I'm just kind of burnt out of shows. I've been doing these shows for over 15 years. You go, you smile, and it's quite frankly, it's emotionally exhausting to be just up and at it and smiling and engaged for multiple days, and then the travel and everything that goes on top of that. But I found this rejuvenated energy through so many of you guys. So thank you so much for coming out, spending the time, going to the seminar, coming to shake my hand, talk to me, one-on-one. I really, really appreciate that. It's amazing how far this podcast is now reaching. And so it's really fun to stay up to date on that. And it's fun, to kind of hear, different people and how it's helping or why you enjoy it, things like that. So thank you guys so much. Truly, truly from the bottom of my heart. I really, really appreciate that. So, but the Delta Expo, I thought was pretty good. Did not know what to expect. Anytime it's a first year show, you never know what to expect. I've done enough of these for, long enough to know that some of these shows are one and done. If they don't make a big enough splash in year one, they don't get the support to make a year two happen. Definitely don't think that was the case here. Do I think that there were some areas that might change? Maybe location, might change. Perhaps the time of year might change. I don't know. But I definitely think that there were some really positive things. Plus, I really enjoyed Delta. Delta Waterfall I think does a great job. Being proactive, doing the things that need to be done to keep our conservation rights there, to be looking forward to how do we produce more ducks in the future. And so I was happy just to support them. Yukonuba was actually who brought me down, so I love doing that. But of course, I was right next to Lucky Ducks, so I got to be with them too. So much great synergy at that show with what we have going on here, with what we have going on just kind of as a whole. And so there's some really cool stuff. So I was happy to be down there. Now, with that being said, I believe I owe some people an apology. And the reason I owe you an apology is because I know for a fact that there were some people that came on Saturday that did not get to see me speak. And I got a number of messages of, hey, we came, you weren't there. So I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. Did not have any plan of really talking about this, but since there were a number of people that listened to this podcast that came down just for that, I'm going to share something here. So a couple of weeks ago, I started feeling off, and I really couldn't tell you what was wrong. Like to the point that, Whitney was looking at me going what are you mad about? I'm like, I'm honestly not mad. Yeah. Something's just wrong. I just don't know what, And so this was probably about 3, maybe even 4 weeks ago now. No, probably 3 weeks ago, because Brett was here doing some filming and for Retriever Roadmap. And so Brett and I went fishing. Brett really wants to catch his first muskie, so we went out. And the way that I have my boat lift on my dock, we're in a very shallow part of the lake. And so my boat lift is kind of cocked off and kind of like on the, call it, for lack of a better term, call it kitty corner from the end of my dock. So I have to step out of the boat onto the frame of the lift, and then I can walk or, step from there onto the dock. Okay. It's not a big deal. But I, for whatever reason, just slipped, so I was wearing, my Hey Dude shoes, which probably were a little slipperier, if that's a word, more slippery than if I was wearing tennis shoes, something like that. And it was just a quick little slip, and I went, oh, and just felt my, right groin just kind of pop a little bit. Didn't think a whole lot of it. Knew that I'd gotten really tired, as I was fishing that night, but, again, just feeling off. So have that little tweak, and all of a sudden, kind of, on my inner, leg, right where I had that tweak, I start getting this, big, what I think is a bruise. Okay. Again, not something to overly concern about, I don't think. Continues to grow to the point that it's taking up almost half of my leg. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? Never bruised, just red, which I thought was odd. Well, this is probably 3-4 days after tweaking it. So I'm still kind of thinking this stuff is related. Well, then I get a big rash on my left arm. And I'm like, okay, now something's going on, right? So now we're going into not last weekend. Last weekend was the Delta show. The weekend before, that's the time period we're in now. So that Saturday night, I really started to feel bad. Like, just really sick is the best way I can describe it. But I wasn't sick. I knew I wasn't sick. So Sunday, I go into urgent care and get checked out. And what the doctor is afraid of is that I have a very aggressive form of Lyme's disease. Would not be a complete shocker. I'm in Wisconsin. I literally make my living by being outside. We do occasionally get into places that we get covered up with ticks, although I can't remember picking one off in recent memory. Definitely a possibility. So they do the blood work, send me on my way. So I was okay, like definitely fatigued, that kind of thing, but not like I can't make something work, right? So I drive down to Little Rock on Wednesday, help the companies set up their booths on Thursday. There all day on Friday, and on Thursday morning, because we were setting up the show. Thursday morning, I get a phone call that it's the clinic, and they said, hey, you did test positive for Lyme's. So now I have confirmation that I do indeed have Lyme's disease, okay? And I was going to start on doxycycline, which, if you know anything about doxycycline, the only thing that I had known up to this point about doxycycline is what we use it for with our dogs, okay? Because occasionally if our dogs have something they need an antibiotic for, doxy is what our kind of go-to is for a lot of that. But I had never taken it myself. My dad's a chiropractor. We're very much, non-meds if we can help it, right? Have a lot of belief in the body and the self-healing power that the body has. And if something is hurting or if something is uncomfortable, that's your body's way of telling you something is wrong, right? So outside of maybe ibuprofen, I had really never had any real strong meds my entire life, right? So to my knowledge, I've never taken doxycycline. So I started that on Thursday, and after getting the word, Friday, I don't think anyone would have known it. So if you were at the show Friday, you saw me, I don't think anyone would have known anything was wrong. But I was definitely groggy. I was definitely fatigued. I was definitely starting to get achy. Well, Saturday, I could hardly get out of bed. My whole body ached so bad. I woke up extremely nauseous, just unbelievably fatigued. I think I slept the majority of the day and then went to bed just fine that night. Like I was just flat out tired. And so there are a few things that I learned because the pharmacist that I picked up the meds from did not warn me about a few things with doxycycline. So what I found out later on about doxycycline, one, you need to eat. You can't take it on an empty stomach. Well, from Thursday, because remember I wasn't feeling great on Thursday, to Sunday, so 4 days, I ate 1/2 of a sandwich in those 4 days. Was still taking the meds, so I'm sure that's one of the reasons it was messing me up so bad, right? Something else I recently found out about doxycycline is when you're on doxycycline, you were supposed to avoid sun exposure because it has a really enhances your sun sensitivity. So, sunstroke or sensitivity to the heat, sun rash, sun burns, all that you're at a much greater risk for while you're on this antibiotic. So a little difficult for a guy that makes his living being outside, right? Like, so anyway, I'm learning all of this, and I can tell you this week has not been a pleasant week. It has been rough. It has been every morning fighting that nausea. It has been trying not to be stiff, trying not to, like, the thing I just can't fight is the drowsiness. Like, I am very, very fatigued. But I'm trying to do my best that I can in the sun. I'm working really early. I have all of my, so the reason I think I'd said in the intro when I talked about Sitka, the only reason I'm not wearing a Sitka shirt is because I'm wearing my Columbia fishing shirts that have, my SPF in them. I have hoods on, where I can stay cool enough, but I can stay out of the sun. I'm actually wearing my fishing buffs, so I can put it up over my face. Between my hood, my hat, my sunglasses, my buff, I'm staying pretty well covered. So I'm still getting my work done, but this has not been fun. I don't wish this upon anybody. And we'll see kind of where it goes from here. But I did want to make sure that people knew. Like I said, I had no interest in telling one show. I didn't even tell anyone at the show, right? Like I told Yukonuba, what was going on, just because they're who I was there to speak on behalf of. But I wasn't going to tell anyone else until somebody on Sunday. So I went back to the show on Sunday, did my seminars, did my presentations. The first person I see was like, "Oh, you party a little too hard on Friday night?" And I'm like, no. And they're like, "Oh, well, with you not being here, just kind of assume that, that you tied one on." It's like, okay. Now I need to tell people so I don't think it. So that's not the rumor, going around. So if you came on Saturday, and if I missed you, or you missed out watching me speak, I do apologize. It was not something that was intentional. Hopefully now, knowing, you can understand why. But I'm hoping, right now, quite honestly, I'm just hoping that I can make it to Game Fair and not have any issues there. That's an outdoor show. I will still be on my antibiotics, so we'll see what kind of potential hurdles that could cause. But even right now, guys, like, I'm literally sitting inside and I'm wringing with sweat. This thing is still really messing me up. But yeah, we'll get over it. A lot worse things could be going on, right? We'll get over it. So, I want to share with you guys something that happened this morning. It was really rewarding. And so I want to tell you, it was with a client. I'll kind of tell you what was going on here. But one of the things that was so powerful to me today is that, as you can probably imagine, with everything that I've gone through here this last week and a half, 2 weeks, somewhere in there. Well, further than that, if you count all the time I've just not been feeling right. It has been very difficult for me to keep my mental game strong. And I know I talk with you guys and I preach that all the time, keeping, the mental side up, and, keeping, that vision and being goal oriented, and, that your attitude is one of the very few things you have control of every single day. Hoorah, rah, right? Like I'm big into all of that, but it has been very difficult these last few weeks for me to keep up with that and for me to keep on that, because naturally you don't have your health, right? So, it's been really tough. It has been a challenge every day. I have to actively think about it. I have to actively push myself, and then I have to actively try to overcome what I'm inevitably feeling with the fatigue, the achiness, the body, situation, right? So, it's been a challenge, for sure. So I haven't been doing as good of a job, I feel like, certainly as I normally do, but I just don't think I've been doing that great of a job with this. Now, fast forward to today. So today, Monty, who I've talked to you guys about before, Monty is if you go back to the tortoise and the hare, He was my tortoise. He was the dog that the whole time through, like, I never knew if he was actually going to make it. Like, didn't ever actually know if he had, like, did he have the extra pop? Did he have the extra gear? Did he have the things you need to be that fully finished dog, to run our blinds, to do the things, right? And, but he's progressed along. And he's just done a great job. He really has. And his owner is one of the kindest, nicest people that I know. I mean, he's just, you talk about an absolutely genuine person. Corey's that. And I am so blessed to have him in my life as a result of Monty. There's no other reason that Corey enters my life, right? So, talk with Corey a bunch, and it seemed as if Monty was really starting to burn out. So Monty is extremely attached to Corey, to the point that it's almost a little over the top, right? Like, he sees Corey, absolutely loses his mind, and he's just all over the place. Okay, so today Corey had been gone for about a week and a half on a fishing trip, and then you add my stuff in there, so probably he hadn't seen Monty for probably 3 weeks. And when he last saw him, we ran 5-point, we ran some pile works, we ran some stuff like that. And really the big thing for Corey was, let's just get you acclimated. Let's get you comfortable with handling Monty, okay? And, we'd been kind of working towards, the blind retrieve aspect of it. So he's through all this stuff. I bring Corey out, and the idea is we're going to, show Corey where Monty's at in his training, which is now running live blind retrieves. And 2, see if we can elevate him, right? Like, give him more reps. So he comes out, we kind of go over everything. I go out, and first I just have him run 5-point just for muscle memory. Let's just make sure, I do this every day, right? Let's make sure you feel good with your hand placement, your body language, on your sends. Let's just make sure you're confident. Boom, 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 boom. Looks great. Looks awesome. Okay. So then we go, and we're going to run their first ever blind retrieve. So I set up the blind. We have, I actually set up 2 blinds. The first of which was about 65 yards. The next of which was about 90. Okay. So he lines them up on the 65 yarder, lines them up, sends him a little offline, but blows that whistle. Monty turns and stops. Corey gives him a left over, but I think he was overthinking it because he kind of had his hands going all over the place. So Monty started to go back instead of left. Tweet, set him right back down. Cast him left over. Boom, right to the pile. Done. First ever blind retrieve. And I could tell Corey was excited, but I could also tell that he was trying not to overthink it, right? Because I asked him, I said, how'd you feel about that? He's like, it felt good, but I knew that I screwed him up with my hands, on that first whistle. I'm like, okay, great. Let's bring him back. We're now going to move roughly 90 degrees, and we're going to go run him on this 90-yarder. Okay, so just really think about things. When he stops, take your time, slow down, like I'm trying to talk through him, right? And so brings him back in, lines him up, puts his hand, and I mean, he looked like a pro. He's not over-exaggerating his hand, just really lightly, kind of right by the side of his head, back, takes off, runs a beautiful line, was just going to miss lining it to the right, tweet, boom, turns, sits him down, and where he sat him down was 6 yards from the pin. Gives him a left overcast. Monty takes 3 steps, boom, right on it, brings it back. And when he grabbed that bumper, Corey's arms went in the air, and a grown man is literally jumping for joy. He was so over the moon that he had a dog those running blind retrieves. I, in that moment, immediately stopped struggling with my mental issue. Because what I realized is, here's a blind. Here's a 90-yard blind. If I take any one of my dogs out, my mind goes, you better do this in your sleep. Right? I realized I've taken it for granted. Here's a man that has a dog run this blind retrieve, and it is the best thing that could have ever possibly happened to him today. He literally got done with tears in his eyes, and he goes, gosh, I don't know how I go back to work after that. I mean, the thought of all the things that have just naturally take for granted every day. Like, I was looking at him going, oh my gosh, like, almost hard at that point for me not to be emotional, because I'm like, obviously I did all that work, with Monty to get to that point, but it had not meant that much to me. I knew Monty could do that. In my head, okay, what's the next level? What's the next step? Where do we go from here? And as far as Corey's concerned, Monty is the dog of his dreams. Really interesting. It's really interesting because if you are at all like me, you are a next level person. Quite frankly, I wanted to call this podcast The Next Level. I can't remember why we didn't. I kind of like Duck Dogs better now, now that it's here. But we were going to call this podcast The Next Level. And the reason is because that is how my mind works. Whatever we achieve, it's great. What's next? Great. What's next? What's the next jump? What's the next step? How do we progress now? How do we grow? Where do we go to next? I need to do a better job stepping back and appreciating the moments that Corey appreciated. I was lost in that moment with him. Watching that happen, and there's something about it, you guys. I mean, if you just train by yourself, and if you just train with your dog, hard to appreciate this. But if you are training with other people, and you can step back and you can watch someone handle a dog from a different perspective, it gives you a much different appreciation for that moment. It's different than you standing there. You see things you wouldn't normally see. You can read things differently than what you'd normally read them. And for me, in that moment right there, I realized that I need to appreciate the little steps along the way. Everything doesn't have to be the next level. Everything doesn't have to be what's next. Monty had done the exact same thing with me. And he probably got back to me. I was like, good boy. Tossed the bumper aside. We were like, all right, which one's next? My mental psyche going into this weekend is way different. And what it really does is, so after Corey left, I really started reflecting on this, right? So what else do I take for granted? Well, a pretty easy one for me to identify right now is my health. Take it for granted. Being able to, I was on, and I worked out minimum 5 days every single day for the year. I now haven't touched a weight in almost 2 weeks, trying to give my body time to recover. Okay, all those days that I drug myself into the gym, all those days I did not want to actually be there, taking it for granted. If I would have went in and saying, hey, guess what? I get to go do this today. I could be feeling like junk. I could be feeling like garbage. I could not physically be able to do this. Boy, how different would my mindset have been? How much better would that workout have been? Right? Same thing for the dogs. How often do you drag yourself in with a poor attitude with the dogs? Guess what? I physically can't be outside right now, outside a certain point, to avoid this sun sensitivity. Physically can't. Boy, you realize all those days you take for granted now. It's amazing how these little moments can make you just step back and look at things differently. Here I was dragging myself through the day because, oh, I don't feel good. Oh, I'm achy. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I have to wear my hood up. Oh, I don't want to wear my buff to stay out of the sun. Oh, poor me. Oh, wait a second. Corey's literally jumping up and down in a celebration because his dog just one whistled a 90-yard blind. Really changed things for me today, you guys. And I can tell you, I needed it. I really did. So my challenge to you this week is to take a step back, identify something that you take for granted. You may not have even realized until this moment, right? But identify something you take for granted that you do not appreciate like you should. And then mentally put yourself in a situation, a hypothetical situation, that you can no longer physically do that. Then snap out of it and go appreciate it for what it is. Okay, my challenge for you for this week. So I'm hoping I feel better. Yeah, this next week we can get a little more in-depth and a little more. We're coming into a busy stretch here in August. But I hope everyone's progressing along in their training. I hope they're spending more and more time outside because season is going to be here before you know it. I only have, let's see here. I am not far away. I am less than 4 weeks. I'm 3.5 weeks away from heading down to Kansas for Dove Opener. 3.5 weeks. That is a aha moment. Not much time. So hope you guys are getting in your last of your grind here as we head towards this final push into season. And I will talk with you all next week. Hope you guys have a great weekend, great start to next week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.